Ever worked yourself to the bone, only to be brushed aside like you didn't matter? That's exactly what happened to me. I showed up early, stayed late, handled crises others ran from, and never once asked for praise. I didn't need it. All I wanted was fairness. Just the bonus I was promised. The one I earned. For 3 straight years I gave everything to this company. Not just my time, my energy, my weekends, my peace of mind. I carried accounts that were too much for one person, but somehow I managed. And not just managed, I thrived. I turned shaky leads into long-term clients. I smoothed over near disasters. I became the guy they called when things got ugly. I never dropped the ball. And that year, I knew I'd done more than enough. Everyone said it. Even my manager. This year's bonus is going to reflect your effort, he told me. I didn't ask for that promise. He offered it. I believed him. But when the time came, crickets. No call. No email. No, thank you for your hard work. Just silence. So I waited. Maybe it was an oversight, I told myself. Maybe the system messed up. Week 1 passed. Then week 2. Finally asked. Just a casual check-in with HR. You know what they said? There must have been a miscommunication. Your name wasn't on the list. A miscommunication. No apology. No correction. Just a shrug like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. That was the moment everything changed. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about respect. About what that money represented. Every early morning. Every skipped lunch. Every weekend I stayed logged in while my friends were out living life. That bonus wasn't just dollars. It was proof that someone noticed. But apparently they didn't. I sat at my desk that night long after everyone left. Lights dimmed. Floor empty. I looked around and thought, how did it come to this? How did I end up giving so much to people who gave nothing back? And then I remembered something. A conversation I'd had a few months earlier with a client. Not just any client, the client. The one account worth $9 million. We had a connection. Built over years of honesty, reliability, and results. They didn't trust the company, they trusted me. That night something shifted. I wasn't angry. I was clear. They forgot my bonus. Fine. But I wasn't going to forget what I was worth. They made a choice. Now it was my turn to make one. What happened next wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was quiet. Calculated. But every step was deliberate. Because when you make someone feel invisible, you better be sure they're not the one holding the weight of your biggest deal. Let me tell you how it all unfolded. I wasn't born with connections or shortcuts. Everything I had, I built from the ground up. My first day at the company, I didn't even have my own desk. Just a corner near the copier. No one knew my name. No one cared what I had to say. But I learned fast. I listened, I watched, and I worked harder than anyone around me. I knew I'd never be the loudest voice in the room, but I'd be the one they could always count on when things got tight. And that's exactly what happened. Over time, people started coming to me. Quietly at first. A small account that needed saving. A demanding client no one else could handle. I took it all on. Not because I had to, but because I knew it mattered. Every task was a chance to prove myself. And I wasn't going to waste a single one. Within 2 years, I'd become the go-to guy. The problem solver. Cleaner. I wasn't just managing clients. I was keeping them from walking out the door. I turned contracts around, sometimes within days. I knew when to push, when to stay silent, and when to jump on a call at midnight if it meant saving a deal. I was never in the spotlight, but behind the scenes. I was holding the whole thing together. One client in particular changed everything. Let's call them Titan Group. A big name in the energy sector. Demanding, high stakes, and not easy to impress. They came on board through a colleague, but the moment things started getting rocky, it fell in my lap. I didn't complain. Got to work. First, they didn't trust me. Why would they? Another voice from another agency. But I stayed consistent. Transparent. If something went wrong, I told them. If it went right, I made sure they saw the results in black and white. Over time, they stopped calling anyone else. When they needed something done, they came straight to me. By year 3, I knew everything about their operation, their goals, their fears, their internal politics. And more importantly, they trusted me to keep things running smooth without drama. That trust. It wasn't bought. It was earned. With long nights, early mornings, and a track record of never letting them down. I didn't throw that word around lightly, trust. But that's what it was. And not just from the client. From my team too. When someone was in trouble with a client, they'd say, "Can you take a look at this?" And I would. No attitude. No hesitation. I built my reputation on reliability. But as the company grew, something shifted. New faces came in. Flashy titles. Fancy talk. And slowly people like me started being ignored. Not out loud, but in the way that really stings. No more credit in meetings. No more invitations to strategy sessions. My work was still there, still clean, still delivering. But my name started disappearing. I wasn't asking for applause. I just wanted the respect I'd earned. Instead I got silence. And that bonus, the one they promised, that was just the final straw. It was like they looked at all my work, all the value I brought, and decided it didn't matter anymore. Like I was just another cog in the machine. But they forgot something important. I wasn't just holding an account. I was holding their biggest client. The one they couldn't afford to lose. The day I found out they'd forgotten my bonus, something in me snapped, but not in the way you'd expect. I didn't yell. I didn't storm into an office demanding answers. I just sat there, still, watching the people who walked past my desk like I was invisible. And I started thinking not about revenge but about balance. I thought about all the times I stepped up without being asked. Times I bailed them out. The weekends I gave up. The sleep I lost. All for a company that now pretended I didn't matter. That bonus wasn't a gift. It was part of the deal. They broke it. Quietly. Casually. As if I wouldn't notice. But I did. And I remembered something. Months earlier, during a casual lunch with Titan Group's operations manager, something interesting came up. He mentioned they were tired of being passed from one exec to another. "You're the only reason we stay," he said, half laughing over his sandwich. "If you ever leave, let us know first." At the time it felt like a joke. No. It felt like a door that had just swung open. I didn't act right away. That would have been reckless. Instead I got quiet. Observant. I reviewed every document I had access to. Every contract. Every policy. I needed to be sure I wouldn't burn myself just to make a point. What I found was simple and crystal clear. Titan Group's loyalty wasn't tied to the company. It was tied to me. There was no clause, no binding agreement that kept them there. Just trust. A fragile, valuable thing I had spent years building. So I started planting seeds. Small ones. I mentioned during a routine check-in how things at my end were changing. A few shifts in management. Some decisions I didn't agree with. I didn't say much, but I didn't need to. They read between the lines. Next time I floated the idea of doing things differently. More flexible. More direct. Less red tape. They liked the sound of that. And still I waited. I wanted to be sure that if I moved, they'd move with me. Then came the moment. Titan Group asked if I'd ever considered going independent. Just like that. No pressure. Just a question. I said I had. Their response. "If you do, call us first." That was it. That was all I needed. From there things moved fast. Gave no notice. No warning. I wasn't obligated to. They'd forgotten me once. I wasn't giving them the chance to do it again. In one night I cleared my files, wiped my system, packed up my few personal things and walked out. But before I did, I sent one email. Not to my boss. Not to HR. Titan Group. And a week later I was sitting across from them. Not as an employee but as a partner. Independent. Free. And very much remembered. Back at the company chaos followed. I didn't hear it from them. I heard it from others. Panicked emails. Missed deadlines. Frantic meetings. They hadn't just lost a client. They'd lost the client. And they never saw it coming. Because they thought I'd stay quiet. They thought I'd accept being overlooked. They thought I was just another name on a spreadsheet. But I wasn't. And now they finally knew it. It's funny how fast everything changes once you stop waiting for permission. One day, I was just another face in a cubicle. The next, I was sitting across from a $9 million client, drawing up plans without any middlemen, without any filters. Just me, them, and complete trust. The move wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. I finally saw my value, and more importantly, so did they. Titan Group didn't hesitate. In fact, they seemed relieved. No more jumping through corporate hoops. No more delay. With me, they got results. Direct, simple, fast. And now, I wasn't answering to anyone above me. I was building something of my own. But the news didn't stay quiet for long. Word spread inside the company like wildfire. People started whispering, then outright talking. Did you hear he left? He took Titan with him. How the hell did that happen? They didn't get it. For so long they'd underestimated me, boxed me in, pretended I was just background noise. So when I walked out the door with their most valuable account, it hit them like a freight train. I didn't gloat. I didn't post online or send messages. I didn't need to. Because while they were scrambling, calling emergency meetings and trying to fix what was already gone, I was already working. Building a new system. Faster. Cleaner. Without the layers of nonsense that had weighed everything down. Titan Group gave me full control. I hired the people I wanted. Set up the structure the way it should have been from the start. No fluff. Just purpose. Every call was productive. Every decision was mine. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in that old office. Freedom. Meanwhile, back at the company, damage control became a full-time job. They tried to contact Titan, sent emails, made offers. But the client didn't budge. They weren't interested in apologies or excuses. They had what they needed. Me. And then the real fallout began. Executives got called into meetings. Managers got questioned. HR started digging through emails, looking for a scapegoat, someone to blame. But the truth was simple. This wasn't a single bad decision. It was a culture of neglect, a pattern of ignoring the people who actually did the work. I heard weeks later that the CEO called an emergency review of all high-performing employees. Suddenly, bonuses were being paid out. Promotions rushed through. But it was too late. The message had already been sent. They didn't protect their best people until it hurt. And I wasn't the only one watching. Others started reaching out. Quiet messages from coworkers I used to sit beside. You were right. They did the same to me. How did you do it? And just like that, something started to shift. Not just for me, but for others like me. The silent engines. The ones who made everything run while getting none of the credit. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about showing that loyalty is a two-way street. That when you ignore the people holding everything together, don't be shocked when the whole thing falls apart. I didn't need to burn bridges. I just chose to build something better. And now, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing recognition. It was chasing me. They say the best revenge is success. But for me, it wasn't about revenge. It was about finally feeling seen. Every message I received from former coworkers only confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't alone. So many people were being overlooked, underpaid, and quietly pushed aside, just like I had been. And most of them stayed quiet. Not because they were weak, but because they didn't know there was another way. That's the trap. You spend so long proving yourself, so long trying to be the reliable one, the problem solver, the person who never complains, that you start to believe you're only valuable when you're silent. But when Titan Group followed me out the door, that silence broke. Not just for me, for everyone watching. I started getting calls, emails, LinkedIn messages from people who had seen what happened and wanted to know more. Some were strangers. Others were people I hadn't spoken to in years. A former intern who was now in a leadership role at another firm reached out. You did what we all wish we had the nerve to do, he said. That one message stuck with me. What I did wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. I didn't slam doors or shout in boardrooms. I just made a choice. A quiet, deliberate choice to stop handing my loyalty to people who hadn't earned it. And now, my days looked completely different. No more pointless meetings. No more chasing approvals from managers who didn't understand the work. Just progress. Every hour meant something. Every client interaction moved things forward. It was simple, efficient, human. But the company I left behind, they were still trying to pick up the pieces. They tried to spin the story, of course. Told people I had breached policy. That I acted unprofessionally. But no one bought it. Because the truth was simple, I left. They lost. And they lost because they forgot the one rule that should guide every company. Take care of your people star. The ripple effect didn't stop there. I got a call from another major client. Not one I had managed personally, but one that had heard the story. They were curious. Wanted to know what I was doing now. We set up a meeting. One turned into two. Soon they were on board too. By the end of the quarter, I had more business than I could handle on my own. So I started hiring. Not just anyone. I reached out to the quiet grinders. The overlooked talent. The people I knew had been working in the shadows just like I had. And when they joined, I made one thing clear. Here, you'll never be invisible. There were no fancy job titles. No bloated org charts. Just people doing great work and being respected for it. And the best part, the clients noticed. No bureaucracy. No red tape. Just clear, honest work. Back at my old company, I heard things weren't getting better. Morale was low. People were leaving. Upper management tried offering incentives, but by then it was obvious. Money can't fix a broken culture. They had their chance. They let it slip. Now they were watching from the sidelines while the person they forgot about became the one they couldn't ignore. And the most satisfying part, I never had to raise my voice. Never had to beg for a seat at the table. I just built my own. People often think power is loud. That it's about shouting the hardest in meetings or taking up the most space in the room. But I learned something different. Real power is quiet. Moves without noise. It builds slowly, while others are busy chasing titles and clout. And when it finally shows itself, it's unstoppable. I wasn't trying to become a story. I didn't plan on shaking up the system. I was just tired. Tired of being underestimated, tired of being the safety net without ever getting a thank you. So I walked away. That's it. No fireworks. No fight. Just a decision. And yet, that one step changed everything. When people saw what I did, it gave them permission. Permission to ask questions. Permission to stand up for themselves. Permission to stop waiting for scraps and start demanding what they were worth. And that wave started spreading faster than anyone expected. I remember getting a message from someone who'd been with their company for 8 years. Never missed a deadline, always top performer. And never once got promoted. Your story made me realize I'm not crazy, they wrote. I thought I was the problem. That hit hard. 'Cause I'd been there. You give and give, thinking maybe next quarter they'll notice. Maybe next year. But they never do. 'Cause they're not looking. Until you leave. And then suddenly they remember your name. That's when it becomes clear, they always knew. They just never valued you enough to act. But that's not the end of the story. After Titan Group and the new clients joined me, I started thinking long-term. This wasn't just about serving accounts anymore. It was about building a place where people didn't have to feel invisible. A company that did things differently. Where doing your job well was enough to get noticed. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because results mattered. And slowly, that vision came to life. People I brought in weren't just employees. They were survivors of the old system. And every one of them brought scars. Stories of being overlooked, silenced, forgotten. We turned that pain into fuel. We used it to build a new culture. Transparent. Respectful. Real. No office politics. No ego-driven nonsense. Just good people doing great work and getting credit for it. And the industry started to notice. I started getting invited to events, panels, interviews. People wanted to know how I did it. But I never gave them a secret formula. Because there wasn't one. I just did what every decent company should be doing. I paid attention to the people who actually make things happen. The quiet ones. The late-night grinders. The ones who fix problems before anyone else even knows they exist. I didn't steal clients. I didn't play dirty. I simply gave people a better option and they took it. Because deep down, everyone wants to feel seen. And when you build a space where that happens every day, people don't just stay. They thrive. What started as a quiet exit became a movement. And I never asked for it to. I just followed a truth I couldn't ignore anymore. If they forget your value, remind them. Not with words, but with action. The rest will take care of itself. Some people spend their whole careers waiting for a break that never comes. They stay in one place, loyal, hoping someone above will notice their effort, their consistency, their late nights. I know that feeling too well. But what I didn't realize until I walked away was that the break I was waiting for was mine to take all along. In those final months before I left, there were signs everywhere. I just hadn't paid attention before. Meetings where my name was left off presentations I had built. Clients who gave me all the credit in private, but whose praise was filtered or ignored by my bosses. Team achievements where only the managers got the spotlight. You start to feel like a ghost in your own work. You give life to projects, but someone else gets the applause. The day they skipped my bonus, they thought it was a small thing. Just a line item they could review later. But that was the moment I realized how they really saw me. As replaceable. As forgettable. As a tool they could use and set aside. So I made a plan. I didn't burn bridges. I didn't scream. Became sharper. Focused. Strategic. I moved with intention, one step at a time, knowing full well that I was building something they'd never be able to stop. And when I left, it wasn't to make noise. It was to make space, for myself and for others who had been stuck like I was. What happened next surprised even me. People began to speak up. Inside the company, the silence started to crack. One person questioned a manager during a team meeting. Another turned down an unfair offer. One by one, the invisible started becoming visible. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was bigger. Every person who reached out had the same story in a different voice. Years of effort, little to no recognition, and the constant fear of being seen as difficult if they asked for more. And they all said the same thing. I didn't think I could leave. I didn't think I had options. But they did. We all do. That's the lie they feed you. That loyalty is rewarded. That patience pays off. That being a team player will get you somewhere. But only if you play by their rules. The moment you step out of line, even just to speak up, they call you ungrateful. Problem. Someone with an attitude. They don't want you to believe in your own worth. 'Cause the moment you do, their control fades. That's what scared them about me leaving. Not the lost client, not the sudden gap. It was the message it sent. That quiet people can walk too. That we can take the things we built and make them better elsewhere. That we don't have to beg for a seat. We can build the whole table. And once that happens, the old system starts to crack. The ones who underestimated me. They're still trying to figure out how it all slipped through their fingers. They hold meetings about retention strategy and employee value. But it's too late. Because the people who were supposed to be background noise are now the ones everyone is watching. We were never the problem. We were the foundation. They just never looked down to see what was really holding them up.